What's up, fishing fam? I wasn't even going to make a RedCrest recap video, but then I realized after not sleeping for a couple of nights thinking about it, I realized I really had to, and I owe a lot to the fishing fam out there, and I'll explain that more towards the end of this video. I'm just going to do this in one long take for very little editing, so bear with me. I made a couple little notes to kind of keep me on track, but our adventure came around in a rather odd way. It just so happens that I had agreed to run up to Catch Outdoors headquarters, which is north of me in Chicago, to pick up the Catch 22 grand prize package from KBF and Catch Outdoors. And so I grabbed my FTX trailer, hooked it up to the Chevy, and went north. Met Duke on a Sunday afternoon, took some time and shot the stuff with him in his shop, and really got to spend some time with Duke and get to know him. And yeah, pardon me, I'm actually smoking a cigar while I'm sitting out here filming this. So I go up and I pick up the kayak. Chad runs to North Carolina to pick up his new Bonafide kayaks, and then the plan was to meet up back at Chad's place at some point and have like a rigging session in the new KBF headquarters rigging room. Well, it turns out, it took a while because Bonafide has sold so many of these kayaks that they didn't have enough parts they needed, so we literally had to wait a month later. So finally it happened, and then it turns out the week that we kind of get this done, the next weekend when I was going to go down, happens to be RedCrest weekend. My thought was I was going to drive down on a Friday, spend a day with Chad in Austin rigging kayaks, and then come back home on Sunday, but that's when RedCrest was, and Chad invited us to come and spend the night, and if we wanted to go to RedCrest, work the KBF booth. So I was like, you know what, I'll take off Monday and Tuesday, we'll do RedCrest, we'll rig on Monday, come back Tuesday, and that's really what we did. So we drive down to Huntsville. Of course, we're listening to the first day of RedCrest on our phones on the way down, kind of had it sitting up on the dashboard, so we're keeping track of who's going on. Of course, Jeremy, Matt, and I are all fans of Dustin Cannell and Jacob Wheeler and the whole Crush City crew. We like their travel blogs with Mark Daniels Jr. It's just, we're big fans of those guys. So Matt and I make the trip down. We roll into the KBF compound, drop off the trailer, hop in the truck, and it's still early in the day, probably not even 4 o'clock by the time we get down to the Expo Center in Birmingham. So one of the things that's really cool about the RedCrest Expo versus, say, the Bassmaster Classic is, yes, it's not as big as the Bassmaster Classic, but that also means you have basically unlimited time to talk to all your bass fishing heroes that happen to be there. We got to spend, 20 minutes just chit-chatting each with like Roland Martin, Jimmy Houston, Kevin Van Dam was running around, Shaw Grigsby, and a lot of other MLF pros that hadn't qualified for the RedCrest. It was really slick. And then, of course, with each day that goes on and people are cut from RedCrest, well, they're there at the expo and you get time basically to chit-chat and talk to whoever you want. It's a really cool experience. If you ever get the opportunity to go to a RedCrest, highly recommended, just because you just get that much more time, especially if you go like on a Friday before the weekend crowds get there. It's really kind of cool. Matt and I both donated to the KVD Foundation, which was cool because his booth was set up right behind the KBF booth. So his wife was in and out all day. He was in and out like all day long. His family was basically there working the booth. Matt actually donated and got one of the signed KVD jerseys, which was really slick. I made a smaller donation and got like a KVD stamped Yeti, tumbler, which is all I really wanted. But we both got autographs. It was really cool to be able to sit there and talk to the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Kevin Van Dam. I mean, can't beat that. After the show, we went out to dinner at this restaurant called The Southern. Had some really good food, conversation, hung out with Chad and Austin, and just, shot the breeze. And then we made our way to our Airbnb. That place was kind of special. It's a big house up on top of a hill, but if you did not have a four-wheel drive pickup truck, you were not getting up this driveway. Check this clip out. Their driveway is literally a truck commercial. Now, I shot some additional footage of our outside of our B&B, in the daylight the next day. It was really nice, but it was a really comfortable house, plenty of room, had 5 beds for the 4 of us, it turns out, but we were really comfortable on our stay there. It was a great spot, about 25 minutes north of the convention center, out of the way, out of the city, out of the hustle and bustle. It was really nice. Now, first thing Saturday, we show up at the expo, and the RedCrest goes live, and the day starts with drama. You had apparently Adrian Avina pulled into a spot that the current leader at the time, Michael Neal, was fishing, and there was a lot of jaw jacking going on. I'm actually surprised this didn't get a lot of coverage in a lot of places, especially on the interwebs, and as much as we like to mess with each other. It seems like JT Kenny was the only one who really talked about it in a YouTube video after the show. But for those that were watching the live, it was pretty funny. You always know it's getting kind of heated when one of the guys throws out and ends a sentence with "Okay, hoss." It was pretty cool. Yeah, Michael Neal, you're a badass. Apparently, they the conflict ended. Avina went and fished somewhere else. Ended up not making the cut. Michael Neal did, and it's fishing. But you got to be respectful of other people's spots when you're out on the lake. Just the way it goes. Now we all took turns working in the KBF booth. It was really amazing the amount of response that we had at a boater tournament. People coming up and checking out the fully loaded live scope, graphs, torpedo, power pole, fully rigged out Bonafide PWR 129 and the RVR, just rigged and ready to run big lakes, creeks, rivers, whatever you fish. And I bet we talked to hundreds of people over the day. It's really awesome sharing that time and experience with a lot of folks who may be looking in to get into a kayak because of gas prices these days. After I worked the booth for a bit, I decided to walk downstairs and check out the lower area where a lot of other shops and vendors in the main stage were. Ran into our good friend Joe Drowns working at the Duckett Rods booth. I love Joe. He is a veteran. He works a lot with the Yak and Bass group, and he's a big advocate for Heroes on the Water. Now, right across from Joe's booth was our good friend Hank, aka the Bass Geek, right here on YouTube, working the Camus booth, spreading that love, sharing his passion for boats as much as we have in kayaks. We sat there and shot the junk for a good 20 minutes, had people coming up taking pictures and doing all that. It was a really cool experience. Of course, Hank is always a great guy. Definitely got to get him back on the live. Matt and I were walking around and heard a Louisiana accent that you cannot mistake. Turns out it was former Louisiana Sheriff Cliff Crochet. Had a great conversation with him. Then we also ran into another MLF angler, the Puma, as he's known, Mr. Stephen Browning. Now, when Matt asked the 5-time winner, 4 Red Crest qualifications and 10-time Bassmaster Classic qualifier, what he thought about the all-fish catch concept, listen to his response. This is really cool.
It is. It's knowing what everybody has and knowing what you've got to have. If you don't have it makes you make adjustments way quicker than you
do you like the every fish counts format or the 5?
Yeah, no, I like the every fish.
I do too. Because you why?
Let me tell you, you got that thing rolling?
Oh, yeah.
Let me tell you why. I don't know if the general public realizes we pay $5,700 a ton. Yeah, I see it. You didn't realize it.
No, I didn't know it was that
You
high.
didn't know that.
No.
The general public does not realize we pay $5,700 and change to fish an event.
Okay.
If you go out the first day at 5-fish limit, you don't do that well, you have no chance.
Yeah.
You have no chance, and you done spent a lot of money.
Yes, sir.
Major League Fishing, catch all you can catch, and at least you have a chance to go out there.
Even on the second day.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
Somebody will way down, come back up. And
Yep.
I like it.
After that awesome conversation, we kind of walked around and was looking out and checking out the big stage. They were kind of getting everything starting to set up, and a lot of people were sitting there watching the live mix. We ran into Brett Burke, who, if you didn't know, and I didn't know at the time, but Matt sure did, he is the cameraman for Dustin Connell. We struck up and had a great conversation about all of the behind the scenes, the travel vlogs, and all of that. And Matt asked him if he would join us someday to come on for a live and talk about all the behind the scenes and what it's like to be a cameraman and editor for one of the big time pros, especially one who already had one Red Crest title, had just won an event early in the year, and was definitely in contention for its second title. Talk about a great conversation. We kind of separated and walked around different ways. I made my way over to the Garmin booth where I ran into Brett Ayler, who we had just seen at American Legacy Fishing a few weeks prior. We struck up a conversation talking about his time on the water fishing red crest, his little, his struggles. He started out pretty strong, but then just couldn't really find the quality fish. But that led me to get to talking to the Garmin reps, and I said, hey, would you guys mind shooting a quick impromptu video about the new Garmin EchoMap Ultra 2s that they had just dropped? Talk about some of the new features of it, and what did I get myself into by getting this new unit to go with my LiveScope transducer. And wouldn't you know it, Zach from Garmin gave me about 10 minutes and we shot a pretty cool little video together, which you'll see follow this video. And of course, me being the wise ass that I am, I had to shoot a couple of little shut up Randy videos for Instagram showing the new big 22-inch monitors that they came out with. Once I got done with that, I went over and struck up a conversation with the Fallen Outdoors chapter. It's the Alabama chapter of the Fallen Outdoors. And it turns out the guy running the booth that puts on a lot of like duck hunts and things like that. And that's the cool thing about the Fallen Outdoors is they do a lot of different style outdoor activities for veterans. Now, after the show, Matt and I were completely exhausted. I'm amazed the amount of time that I spent on my feet either talking to people or walking around the expo. Honestly, I got to attribute it to all the work that I've done over the last 18 months doing DDP yoga, doing my kettlebell workouts, and spending a lot of time walking around. It actually just paid off. It was incredible. Now, Chad and Austin had a previous dinner engagement, so Matt and I were like, hey, you know what, let's go find an out-of-the-way barbecue joint that was, what was the name of it? I probably posted it on Instagram, but the barbecue was good. I mean, the meal was good, but the thing that stood out the most was outstanding was they have pepper jack cheese sticks. And we both agreed these were the best cheese sticks we ever had. The sauce that kind of came with them, they had two different like mustard style sauces. Oh my God, they were incredible. Check out the Instagram for the. You gotta give them something every now and then. Yeah, Granny wants to get in the video, I see.
No, Granny, don't do that.
So after dinner, we went back to the B&B. We did a quick live. If you guys were here, you saw it. And poured a little bit of bourbon and crashed. So Sunday, Matt and I got up early, rolled out early. We knew the other two were going to sleep in from being out a little later than we were. Went and found some place that had breakfast. Had to get some good old sausage and biscuits and eggs and, big old country breakfast. We just needed to chill and take our time waking up and, of course, drink tons of coffee. Of course, Sunday, the final day of the Red Crest Championship. Again, working the booth all day long and then taking the time to walk around at different other booths. It was really kind of cool. Again, just to have so many people walk up and just, show a lot of interest. And I mean young to old about how far kayaks have come along the way and everything you can do with them. And I guess one of the points that I kept making to a lot of people, of course, they see the most, rigged out boats that there are. But it's like I pointed out to them, I says, these kayaks are 89 pounds. You can strip everything off of them and grab nothing but the kayak and a paddle and drag it into a creek and fish all day long for smallies. Or you can load it up with whatever motor you want, hit a lake, hit a river, fish how you like to fish. They're literally like Legos. You build them how you want them. And you're going to see a lot of that in the future as I build my PWR out in what I call my project Build-A-Boat, because literally each time that we go out, it may be configured in a different way. Now, I got to get to the point of why I had to make this video and have to tell you guys how humbled I was at the amount of folks who walked up to take pictures and even asked for autographs. Never in my entire life did I think that this channel and this fishing family would grow to be something so big that in an event surrounded by bass professionals that I would have people walking up asking for a picture and even an autograph. The one that really stood out to me the most was Matt and I were talking to MLF Pro Jeff Sprague, who is an Army veteran. We were all chit-chatting, standing around the Army Bass Anglers booth, and Jeff and Matt were sharing the fact that they were both MPs, and I was telling them my dad was an MP, my brother was an MP, and we were kind of talking to them and then the Bass Angler guys about, what everybody did. And young man and his father walk up and it's like, hey, can I get a picture with you? And I'm like, oh yeah, let me step out of the way, because it's Jeff Sprague. And he's like, no, aren't you fishing with Gramps? And then it dawned on me, he wanted to take a picture with me while we're standing here talking to a bass professional. It was so heart-melting for me, but Matt looks over at Jeff, who's starting to giggle a little bit, and he's like, yeah, Yeah, he's got a YouTube channel. He's a little famous. So we stopped what we're doing. Matt took this picture of me talking to this father and son, and then, you know, did a selfie with them, and it was just, like I said, I'm just a guy who likes sharing what I love with all of you. But the fact that so many of you, you know, would take the time and, you know, see me in a crowd of, like I said, pros, to walk up and want a picture and, you know, or even an autograph. I had a young man walk up to me, youngster, and held out his hat and said, "Would you give me an autograph?" And I'm sitting here thinking, this dude, how did, you know. But I know a lot of you guys out there, and I realized when I started this channel that I thought I would be influencing maybe younger guys who didn't have like the father figure or a grandfather to take them out fishing, and I would kind of show and teach the ropes of what I knew. It turns out a lot of you who follow along are either guys who fish the tournaments, or, you know, use some of the gear that I like to talk about, or your parents who, you know, want to share this experience with, you know, the younger generation. And it started following along when I was doing my, you know, basic, you know, how-to videos, or even grandparents who are doing the same thing. You find time with your grandkids and you want to spend time with them on the water, whether it's on the bank, in a kayak, a boat, john boat, whatever. But it's truly phenomenal how many folks of all ages just come up and said hi and you know, knew who I was. I can't thank you guys enough, and I had to shoot this video to let you know how much I appreciate all of you who watch this channel, whatever nonsense me and the Freedom Squad are, you know, putting out. It's really something special, and you know, you're gonna see some content this year. It's more back to the family style stuff. The fact that you guys watch this channel, and then again when we show up at events like that you come up and talk to us, oh man, it's awesome, and I can't thank you enough. It's truly a blessing, and I thank each and every one of you. I got the yapping so long, I'll let my stogie go. Oh, that's better. Oh, I do have to jump back to the day before, because there was a point in time before the final day, on Saturday I think it was, Dustin Cannell was literally below the cut line, and I happened to be standing there in front of the bass tank, and standing next to me was Andy Montgomery. So I started talking to him because I love his skipping reel that, you know, he designed with Lew's. While we're standing there talking, DC just goes off, and I mean, he goes from like below the cut line to like leading in 20 minutes. And I remember looking back over to Andy, and he just, you know, I love his accent. He sure knows how to find them. It was truly incredible. Now back on the final day, after we got done talking with Jeff Sprague and, you know, getting some pictures and whatnot made, it was kind of cool because they would have guys at the fish tank doing demonstrations, you know, all throughout the expo. I was watching, I think, Brett Chapman throw a chatterbait, you know, into the tank, and he was talking about how effective bladed jigs are. There was somebody else, I can't remember who it was, tossing a wacky rig in there, and just watching those bass react. It's really kind of cool, and I think a lot of the kids that were watching kind of got a true idea of seeing what it looks like with baits under the water. Now, one of the booths I had to make my way to was NACO Outdoors, and they make tungsten weights. And I actually picked up 3 or 4 different packs of different like style worm weights that I've been looking for, and some like jig heads and some other things. And so you'll see me fishing those. Now, one of the things I try to pride myself on is, before I really get in with working with a company, is I buy and use their products. You've seen me do it with American Legacy. You've seen me do it with Old Town in the past. Here I am in a new Bonafide kayak that I purchased, because I want to put my money and effort into it. So when you see me in it, it's something that you know that I took my time and I spent my money on. But then again, I'll follow up with some review videos on some of the stuff that I picked up and bought, and, you know, I'll let you know in the future how that goes. It was really cool meeting those guys, and they're an awesome group. Now, when I walked back over to the KBF booth, Hank, the Bass Geek, was over there in conversation and shooting a little video with Chad. So I was like, I'll let these two BS. You know, they're two fishing freaks that love what they do. So I looked over, and I had realized that there is a new reel company that I have never messed with before, and it's like Baits Fishing Company. And I actually remembered seeing that name somewhere, and I did a quick Google search, and it turns out that I was right, that our good friend Jeff Little had run into these guys at ICAST, and he was talking about like their solid block constructed piece reels, and I never messed with them. Now, the funny thing is, I didn't even pick one up while I was there, and I honestly don't know why, but I struck up a conversation with Buddy, the owner of Baits. We were gonna, you know, try to shoot a video there, but he's like, you know what, instead of dealing with this crowd and the noises and all that, how about I come on your live stream and I'll tell you all about the new Baits reels, which for me is an added benefit because they're a reel that American Legacy is going to be stalking. So that was a really cool opportunity. So I look forward to having Buddy on for a live stream here down the road. That was really cool. Now, Chad and Bass Geek were still going at it, so I decided to go walk around some more. And I did have one more place in mind that I kind of had forgotten about, but I wanted to go find the St. Croix booth. They've come out with a new line of rods, I believe they call Physics. They look different, but honestly, when I put one on my hand, I was actually surprised. Now, if you've been around this channel for a long time, you know my first favorite chatterbait rod was the St. Croix Mojo Bass Glass Rip and Chatter. And I had that paired up with my Lew's Pro TI and oh, loved it. And so I have been on this quest for the last, I don't know, few years to try out like several different types of, chatterbait rod. And the St. Croix Legend Rip and Chatter is like the creme de la creme and one of the best chatterbait rods ever made. And then when they came out with the Victory line, that was kind of like that chatterbait rod or that rod line between the Mojo Bass Glass and the high-end Legend series. I didn't really care for it because I never could really get it to balance out the way I wanted it to with my Daiwa SVTW, which was my premium chatterbait reel at the time. But I struck up a conversation with one of the reps, and it turns out he is the guy who was like the lead designer in this new brand of rods, which again, American Legacy just picked up and are going to be on the shelves and ready for order here anytime soon. So I was like, you know what? I love doing live streams, and I know you're super busy. Would you be willing to come on and do a Gramps Live with me and talk about this new line of rods? Because my first question to him was, is there a chatterbait Rip and Chatter version of this rod? And he says, of course there is. So I look forward to getting a hold of them and getting them on a live stream. Can't wait to talk to those guys about the new rods. You talk about a productive Red Crest Expo. Not only did our boy DC pull out the victory to win his second Red Crest title with those new Crush City baits, we got to meet up and hook up with several people that's going to come on the future Gramps Live and talk about all kinds of different stuffs, rods, reels, YouTube, making, and just all kinds. Oh, it was phenomenal. And there's actually a couple more that I forgot. I didn't forget. I just left them out because they're going to be surprises too. We got a lot of stuff on our plate coming up, that's for sure. But again, what it all comes back down to, those of you out there who touched this old man's heart and, just come up and said hi, and that was truly a blessing. I appreciate each and every one of you. The folks who come up and say hi when we manage to get to different places, and then like the support at the Knucklehead Championship, which, hey, May's coming up. I'm going to be starting to talk about that as we get closer to that, but that we're saving until after the Kayak Bass Fishing National Championship, and we leave for that on Sunday. So I need to wrap this video up. Oh, but before I do, one of the surprises, right at the end of the expo, before we walked out, and I ended up having a conversation that lasted probably 20-25 minutes, was the bass historian himself, Mr. Ken Duke. But after that, we took off. Matt and I went, drove back to Huntsville. We stayed in the hotel for a night and just crashed. We got up the next day and went through some rigging stuff with Chad and Austin. We were wanting to go fishing. It was just too windy. We actually had, like this is acting right now, a bunch of storms going in, and the wind was blowing so hard, the current in the river, the waves were going the other direction. But we spent the day with Chad and Austin hanging out at the KBF headquarters, going over a bunch of different rigging ideas and stuff that they were doing. And then we drove home Tuesday. But boy, what an incredible adventure. I know this video was running way longer than I wanted it to, but I had to make this video just once again to say thank you to all of you who support this channel, who support me, Jeremy, and Matt in all of our adventures. You folks are truly incredible. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. Now I have to shut up and get this edited and then get this kayak rigged, because I've got 6 days before we hit the road back to Guntersville trying to find some big fish. God bless all of you. Again, thank you for your support. As always, get outside when you can. Make some memories, one cast at a time.